technology, diversity, wine, the redwoods, and everything in between. Welcome to the Northern California Bay Area, and one show takes you inside the real estate that makes it all happen. This is By the Bay.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Dan Ancheta back with another episode of By the Bay. I'm really grateful that you're here joining us again for our weekly discussion about Bay Area real estate. And if you aren't already subscribing to our channel, please do on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or on YouTube if you happen to be there. I am really grateful today to have a friend of mine, Tommy Quinn, here. He's a realtor at the Coldwell Banker office here in Petaluma, a local guy who grew up here in town. And we're going to have a discussion today about what's happening in real estate, specifically in the markets that Tommy works in. So welcome to the show, man. I'm really grateful that you're here, and let's jump in and tell me what's going on and what markets are you serving right now?
Great question. So the markets I'm serving is Sonoma County, Marin County, Napa County, and I go as far east as Solano County.
Wow. So it's pretty big, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting. So I feel like when people are, how long have you been in real estate?
So this is my third year.
Yeah. So it's pretty common that I see that people start with a pretty wide range, right? You're not going to turn any business away. You're going to drive wherever you need to go. And
Definitely.
Then as the business kind of matures, you get more and more focused, and then you're just kind of like, well, I only do West Petaluma, right? And then it's like, well, everything else I don't want to touch.
That's the dream.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's what you're building too.
Yeah.
So that's a interesting perspective because it's a wide range and a ton of different kinds of markets there.
Mm-hmm.
You've got luxury, you've got Marin, different pockets of there, and then you've kind of got starter homes, and then you've got all pushed out to Solano, which is a different kind of stock of housing, right? Like some of the development that's going on in Vallejo, other places like that. So in general, can you kind of give us a summary of what's happening with your clients, buyers and sellers?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So with buyers right now is a great opportunity. This market, as we saw last year, there was some aggressive rate hikes, and just as we were at the peak of this, crazy market they were saying last year, we had median home prices in Petaluma as high as like $960,000. And so from April to now, through the interest rate hikes, which I believe we were just in a market that was unsustainable. I mean, how high and how fast prices were going up, it was making it impossible for just everyday sports guys like me to try and get their foot in the door in Sonoma County. It was becoming
Affordability was just like,
oh yeah,
it's really, really hard, right?
Exactly.
First-time home buyers, entry-level housing, smaller houses and like not the greatest desirable areas, right? Selling for $800,000, $900,000. It's not a market that's as sustainable.
No,
right?
No, exactly.
Okay.
And so with my buyers, I'm seeing a lot more opportunities for negotiations at the buying table. Like there's opportunities to get seller credits, especially if there isn't inspections on the property. We can come in and get our own inspections. Try to find some cracks, in the listing and try to get some negotiations going.
It's a healthier overall process,
100%.
right? So we've talked about on the show that it's a really unhealthy market when the buyer or the sellers are winning every single time.
Yes.
And the buyers just basically come to the table and say, what do you want? Right.
Exactly.
And just no contingencies and over asking and no due diligence period. It's just like sight unseen.
Oh yeah.
And that's not a healthy way to buy a house,
No.
right? That's not, I think in hindsight, we'll look back and go, that wasn't really great. Right.
No, yeah.
It was
100%.
necessary if you wanted to own, right?
Right.
But I'm happy to hear that there's reaching a little bit more of a level playing field.
Yes.
In a way.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot more comfortability too. Like I'm seeing when, I had a couple listings when those interest rates went up, and it was like we had a pause in the market. Like people just kind of stood on the sidelines and kind of watched and waited for what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And now we've been seeing, less drastic rate hikes. We've been kind of ping ponging between 6% and 7%, and people are feeling comfortable. They're getting back in the market. They're locking in their rates.
It's interesting that a few weeks ago that every post on social media was like, hey, rates are going down to the fives. Rates are going down to the fives, which was true at the time.
Right.
And here we are sitting at the end of February, and rates are, high sixes, low sevens again.
Right.
I haven't seen a slowdown in applications.
Really?
It's like the news that the buzz about rates going down is still like going out into the world, and that's getting people to come to the market, and then I'm going like, hey, let's do some rate education and look at these rates and where they are.
Right.
And they're like, oh, I thought they were in the fives. It's like, well, they were.
Yeah,
and it's actually a great education time for me to pull up a mortgage-backed security, chart and show them this is the volatility that we have in the market, and this is how it impacts the actual rates that you are able to get.
Right.
So it's really interesting how the kind of news cycle, works through that.
Yeah.
So have you seen an uptick in activity with buyers, or are you? What are you seeing in your kind of? Because you do a lot of like outreach.
Yes.
Right.
I do a lot of prospecting. I mean, I live. I wasn't born into any real estate backed family. My mom works in the hospital industry. My dad was a logger for 30 years. So I have to do a lot of prospecting, and I found that it's easier or it's not easier, but there's more data to do prospecting around trying to get listing appointments.
Okay.
It's harder to get, and I found that through getting listings and posting on my social media, I end up getting buyers through my sphere that sees and they get excited with my listings. They want to jump in the market and get,
Well, sellers lead to buyers, buyers lead to sellers, right? That's kind of this cyclical thing where you have to do both.
Yes.
But you're right. It is easier to find out who already owns a house.
Yes.
And then talk to them like, how is this house working for you? That type of question.
Exactly. But I love working with buyers, like first-time home buyers. I love the hunt. I love to fight tooth and nail for my clients. I'm always, hunting or prospecting to try to, help out another homeowner. And when I'm on the other side of the coin, when I'm helping a buyer, I can kind of know what the sellers want and know, kind of how we can get on the listing agent side and try to get our way in there.
Right.
So
especially in a really competitive market.
Yeah.
So I do want to talk about like how you're developing business, and I'm just curious to know like how you're utilizing technology.
Right.
One of the focuses of the show is really about, educating buyers and kind of what they can expect. Right. So I guess one of the questions I have is, what's your approach when you're like consulting with a buyer, like a first-time home buyer?
Yeah.
Like, how does that process look for you? Do you have a specific thing that you do, like an education? Because your background is education is in economics, right? So do you like pull out the charts and look at supply and demand and how those cross and that how the price is dictated? Like, how does that work for you? What does that look like?
Yeah, great question. So it kind of depends. If I've got a more seasoned buyer who's done this a few times, we don't need to waste much time going through the educational aspect of, what are all the terms? What's an appraisal? What's a contingency period? What's your earnest money deposit? But with a first-time home buyer who it's their first experience ever going through this transaction, there's a little bit more of an educational period. And I find it's instead of, taking a day to come meet at the office, sit down, go through charts, we'll just educate as we go. So as we're out looking at property, we kind of see what's going on in the market, and we can kind of get a good tap on what's going on, right then and there. But yeah, we still go through, what I find out their criteria, what are they looking for. Of course, they get them pre-approved first, so we're not out looking at property, and then they get pre-approved to find out that that property that they love is out of their price range.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Critical things, and I think that message is getting out there.
I think so.
It's still shocking to me how many phone calls we get a week and saying, I'm in contract on a house and I need to get approved for a loan, and it's like,
oh man,
who wrote you a offer without who's out there writing offers with clients, or even taking them around to go look at proproperties without knowing what they can afford, right? Like it's wild to me, but it still happens. It still happens regularly. And I'm hoping that if we just keep beating the drum of start with getting a home buyer education with a qualified mortgage professional, right? Understand the process and the costs and the monthly payments and the total cash that you need to come out of pocket, comparing some different programs that might work for you. Do you qualify for down payment assistance and other type of incentives? Like, let's have all those initial conversations and then go shopping.
Yes.
Right. But people don't want mortgages. They want houses.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So that's not fun. Like, name a TV show that focuses on getting a mortgage. None. How many shows are out there about buying real estate and the hunt of finding real estate?
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Right? Like everywhere.
Yeah, we were just talking about selling Sunset,
Yeah, there's $1 million listing and selling Sunset and all the HGTV, like, all those other
House
things.
Hunters.
House Hunters and all that stuff. So that's where people want their attention is like, that's the fun, exciting part is looking at it and imagining what your life can be. No one's like, I really am so excited about getting pre-approved for a home loan.
Yeah, let's go through these terms that really are going to educate us on the mortgage process.
Right. I'm going to find my W-2s. This is great, right? So you, depending on who the client is, you're kind of looking at their background and then deciding how much education they need, or do we just kind of get them pre-approved and go start looking for houses?
Exactly. And you don't want to overwhelm them too. I mean, it should be an enjoyable experience. We're very careful, and I work with a team. So I like to surround myself with people that are trying to do what I want to do and trying to scale as fast as I want to, and efficiently as I want to scale. And when you've got the right team around you, it makes it that much more enjoyable, and it's in an easy process. Yeah. So it's not like you're fighting against your TC, and then you've got an escrow lady that you can't get on the phone, and you've got your partner who's always going on vacation. It's right. You got to surround yourself with like-minded people.
100%.
Yeah,
I think that's a critical thing. I have lots of people are joining teams or forming teams. Right. I think that's a trend right now that people are doing, and a lot of the thought leaders in the mortgage and real estate space, like the Tom Ferrys and Todd Duncans of the world, they're really encouraging people to join teams, and there's super teams that are being created. Yeah. Because you can't do everything.
No.
Right. And if you're way more efficient if you have a great partner that you can, each be in your most effective state. Exactly. Right. And like that complements each other.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
So tell me about the team that you're on and how did that come to be?
So great. I started working at Coldwell Banker. I finally got a prospecting program put together. I use, a calling platform to help connect me with homeowners, and got my first appointment. And I didn't know how to handle it. I got almost laughed out of there. It was a $300,000 condo in Santa Rosa, and I left that appointment knowing I needed to surround myself with some people.
So you start your career, right? And you don't have any clients.
No, nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
So you pick up the phone and you start calling people and asking them about their real estate needs and how you can help them.
Exactly.
And you get an appointment.
Yep.
So just picking up the phone is the hard part.
Yes.
Right. Most people can't even get there.
Exactly.
Because there's so much anxiety around being told no. How many no's you had to get to a yes?
Right.
And what are you going to say? And how do you approach that? And what if it goes really well? How do you go from there? Right.
Yeah.
So you get the appointment and then you just fall on your face and.
Yeah. I didn't spend much time editing. Like, we have templated listing presentation, whether it's a luxury listing in Tahoe or in Sacramento,
Sure.
And you can take those templates and kind of personalize them. And now I've made mine where it's nice and to the point, and it's not 65 pages, and you lose lose focus when you're halfway through. But yeah, I got laughed out, and he on the way home, I called Mark, who got me into the business, and said, "Hey, dude, I think we should partner up. I'll try to score some listing appointments, and I just need you to come with me and kind of help me out."
Yeah.
And
it's probably the best thing that ever could have happened to you.
Best thing that ever happened
is to get just absolutely demolished on the first time.
100%.
I think there's a fatal mistake that people make, was they have early success. Is they think that every day is going to be an easy day.
Right.
And it's like, hey, if you start off with just getting your butt kicked, then it's like, okay, then it gets better from here. Right. And then you have that success, and you get the next appointment, and you go out there and you crush it, and you're like, okay, that was a good day.
Yeah.
But you don't have that expectation that every day is going to be a perfect day.
No. It's like a professional baseball player. They don't hit a home run every baseball game, but do they stop practicing through the week for the next game?
Yeah.
No, you got to get up.
And a world-class, a world-class all-time great gets a hit 3 times out of 10.
Right. Yeah, and that's a good average.
That's an amazing average. Yeah. Batting 300 is great, right? 100%. Career 300 batter is Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
But I think that's a perspective that we in the business world look at is like, hey, I expect to win 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
Right. I do. Right. And that's my expectation. And when I don't, I'm mad about it. Right. I don't like to lose. I'm very competitive, which is what I think this real estate industry. I think attracts that kind of competitive person. There's a lot of, I think about this in real time here. There's a lot of like former athletes that wind up in real estate, either on the mortgage side or
interesting.
Because I think there's a certain amount of like daily discipline, like hitting the gym type of thing.
Yeah.
Right? You just like go through you got to practice a lot. You're like going through a lot of the motions, and then
you're saying.
you get on stage and you get to the game. You're actually doing the listing presentation, but there's a lot of other stuff that you're doing before like you're actually playing the game, right?
Oh yeah, and I found that working in real estate, it really just matches with my wants and needs, like in life. I mean, most of my hobbies are surrounded around real estate. I mean, I'm on the golf course on the weekends and I'm looking at houses the whole entire time. I was in LA the other weekend and got to go to Disneyland and see all the like amazing architecture in there. I'm in there joking like, man, I wonder what I would list Disneyland for, but
it is funny when you live in it that you notice things differently.
Yeah.
Like when we travel, like we're like on, Redfin or Zillow or whatever. Like, how much does it cost? Like, what do these houses cost?
Yeah.
Driving through a neighborhood, like, what's for sale here? I'm just curious to know. How do these people live?
Exactly. See one listed for sale in an area that you're not aware of. You go, let me scan that QR code.
Exactly. See what's going on.
Yeah.
So take me back to the current state of real estate with your clients. So we want to make sure that I'm kind of focused on this. So
Yeah.
we've been doing the show for a number of months now. I think how long we've been doing this now. It's like 6 months, 7 months.
Nice.
And yeah, it's fun. And so I think looking back, there's gonna be this timeline of like, here's what's going on. And there was a few weeks or months where it was like, hey, things are really slow and a lot of buyer opportunity. And then I think we kind of crested. And then, give me the narrative of where we are right now. Is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? Who's winning on your negotiations right as you're doing them in real time?
Yeah.
And what do you think this summer looks like? Are you seeing things today? This is a very long question. Are you seeing things today that give you hope for the summer? Are you seeing like people are really gun shy, or where do you think we are?
I'm very hopeful. I think it's most important to stay away from the big headlines and the scary media posts about this big real estate bubble that's going to pop. I mean, I read a post the other day that said poppy seed bagels are a threat to national security. It's like
They are.
I guess they are. I like my poppy seed bagels, so that one hit home for me. But I'm very hopeful. We're seeing it's still a seller's market right now. I mean, inventory's very low, especially as you get into Marin County. Some Fairfax pockets there's just nothing on the market. But with interest rates where they're at, it's making these home sellers have to come down to reality and sell for a little bit more of an attractive price. I mean, now in Petaluma, we've got a median home price of about $800,000, and that leaves a lot more opportunities for buyers to get into negotiations and not have such a fast closing period. I mean, it was like last year. Average close time, I mean, it was like if you didn't have a 20-day or less offer, they wouldn't even consider it. Now people are okay with credit backs,
rent backs or a contingent on the sale of your existing home.
Yes, exactly.
That was unheard of a year ago.
Right.
Yeah. So it is nice that our buyers aren't having to be so competitive that they can actually take a breath.
Exactly.
And read a set of disclosures.
Yes, exactly. Right? Yeah, that too.
Yeah. That's encouraging. So this summer, my experience is that we see a lot of interest, right around March, April. People are planning for the end of the school year and starting to look at real estate May, June-ish, so that they can move and settle before school starts, right? That's kind of the typical pattern that we see that gives us an increase in overall transactions, buyers and sellers, in the summertime. Are you seeing that trend right now? Are you seeing an uptick in people having interested when you're picking up the phone and calling your daily 100 or whatever you're doing? What's the vibe? What's the tone that you're getting from them?
I'm getting a lot more conversations on the phone. It was actually my business. It does a lot better in a changing market like this. When everything was selling on the market, any Joe Schmo could list a property and it would jump into contract and sell. A lot of homeowners weren't as willing to have conversations on the phone. They were spoiled. They thought they had their person in their right seat. Now, through my prospecting, people they don't know what to do sometimes. They have an agent who maybe was too far away and didn't give the listing the attention that it needed and deserved. Or maybe the seller gave an unrealistic expectation, but now we're in a market where you need to actually sell the property instead of just list it, throw a sign up, put it on MLS, and it'll sell. And so I'm seeing a lot more conversations and an uptick in buyer. buyer activity. It's, maybe they're trying to get in before. There's been some talk about the Fed having, their springtime discussions about another interest rate hike.
Yeah.
And so it should be just a very minuscule one, but still it changes the monthly payment.
Right.
And so I feel like people are trying to get in now while it's good.
So go on a tangent about Fed policy with your economics background.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think the Fed does? So you're looking at these different trends. You're looking at the consumer price index kind of coming in hotter than we expected, right? Job starts and unemployment being as low as it is. So there's still new jobs being created. Wages are going up overall. Inflation is still higher than well above the 2% target.
Right.
What do you think? At what point do they stop the increases? Like from your, what is that? What do you think about that with your background as an economics background?
Great question. It's hard to say. I definitely don't think we need to be continuing very steep hikes in short periods of time. But I don't know. It's strange because like I want to sit here and say, yeah, I think we should continue rising interest rates to help with prices and at the same time I'm thinking if interest rates keep going up, sellers might be hesitant to bring their properties to market because they know that's going to affect their value. So we might see inventory still very skim and prices kind of holding where they're at. So it's like I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah. I think that people need a place to live,
right?
And a seller still has to go somewhere to live somewhere, right? So the decision to sell is definitely impacted by interest rates because if I'm sitting on a 2.5% interest rate, and even if I'm going to go move out of state or do something else, if I'm taking a loan, if I'm going to trade into a 7% interest rate, that definitely plays into my math when I'm deciding how motivated I am to move.
Yes.
Now, if I have enough equity in my house here that I can sell and buy all cash wherever I'm going, if I wanted to do so, then that's maybe that overcomes that issue.
Yeah.
But I definitely I think that the Fed has to really not miss killing the inflation, right? They really have to. If they undershoot it, it just is gonna like double dip and it's gonna just keep going, right? And it's just like any pervasive weed. We have to go and like kill it all the way.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it comes back.
You got to pull the root out.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so I'm cautious. Like I want them to slow down the increases so we can moderate rates and kind of right size them.
Right.
But I'm cautious because I'm afraid that they're gonna go too early and then they don't pull out the whole root system.
Yeah.
And then we have years of consequences.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather just take the medicine now and be done in 6 months
Same.
than have this be prolonged over a 5-year, like economic cycle.
Same.
And go into like a deeper recession than necessary.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's fascinating. I mean, people are well more, involved and educated than I am on the matter, but it is interesting how those big policies impact the regular first time home buyer.
Yeah.
Here in Sonoma County.
Well, and I want to touch back on the interest rate because that's another thing I'm running into on the phones. It's huge where, let's say someone wants to sell, but they had recently refinanced or they have a property that's, in an interest rate that's 2.9%.
Yeah.
They want to relocate to get closer to family and move out of state, but they're going to be trading off, a 2.9% interest rate for something that's, in the sixes, and they're going to be potentially doubling their monthly payment. So that's becoming a challenge. Is people, they want to sell, they want to move, but they realize that it just isn't in the playing cards right now.
I've heard the expression that people don't own the house, they own the rate.
Right.
In a lot of ways, right? They don't love the house, but they love the rate. And so it's like, well, hey, I guess I'll deal with this house that doesn't really meet all of our needs for a little while longer until, something happens with rates, and then I can trade out of this house and get into something I really want. So our focus is really on the people who don't own, like the first time home buyers that have never owned, and helping them find those opportunities, because I think I'm seeing fewer and fewer like move up, move downs. Right. And when I have people who are relocating or moving, it's because for a job change or some life event, divorce or something like that.
Right.
We also see, people who bought that 2-bedroom condo a few years ago are having their second kid, and now they need a third bedroom.
Exactly.
And they don't really care what the interest rate is. They need more space.
Right.
And it's like, hey, great. So I think there are definitely life event driven things, but just like the casual, hey, we don't like our house anymore, we're ready to move.
Yeah.
I'm seeing less of that type of transaction. It really has to be like a thing that happens to get them to
A life event, a passion, a lifestyle. Those are my favorite people to work with. They're orientated about what their needs are in their current life situation. If right now you're too worried about, like, if you're trying to make a killing here, with where the market's at right now, we might be button heads,
Right.
But if you're passion driven, we got to get going. You got to relocate for a job, or your wife's pregnant and is expecting in 6 months. We got to get something going. I really favor those type of clients.
Yeah, we just actually closed on a few of those, and it was funny because we were sending them like, congratulations, your baby, you just had a baby, gifts. And then, a week later, hey, you closed on your house, and it's like, they have a brand new baby and moving, and it's like, hey, that particular deal, they bought new construction, and it just, we're waiting for the builder to be done.
Right.
So they didn't really have any timing, and it was kind of a race to see what got done first, the making of the baby or the building of the house. And the baby won. And the house happened about a week later, maybe 2 weeks.
I'm glad you touched on new construction, because that's something that's starting to become popular now. With inventory being low and there not being as many options, people are kind of turning more towards the new construction route.
Yeah.
Over the past years, we've seen a lot. The building hasn't met the demand that they've wanted, but over just recently, that demand's been the supply's been picking up. So there's been a lot more new construction.
Yeah, there's a number of developments that have come to maturity.
Yeah.
All at the same time, which is good. There's a bigger developments. They're still building at Corey Heights here in town.
Right.
And then you've got the University District in Rohnert Park, Willow Glen, Rohnert Park, and then the De Nova development over by Casa Grande High School.
Right.
All of those are like actively selling new builds, and plus the Tri-Point ones over by the freeway behind In-N-Out. Right.
Right.
So there's that's a lot. For our little part of the county.
Oh yeah.
There's usually 1 or 2 developments happening, but there's like a bunch.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a lot of inquiries about new construction financing, and the risk there is we don't know when the builder's going to be done, and so these get higher interest rates and longer lock periods, and anyway, it's very interesting to see what the pipeline of new construction is going to look like. Coming down in the next 5 to 10 years, because we're lacking housing supply.
Oh yeah.
So we need more construction.
Yeah. We're seeing, we saw that there's a huge condo development now. The luxury condo space, the townhouse space is becoming popular, where, you pay an HOA and you come home and you don't have to take care of your landscaping or deal with the roof or deal with the exterior paint. Yeah. You can get that all taken care of through the HOA.
We had Mike Brennan from the Mill District up in Healdsburg on the show last week, and pretty cool. He was calling that lock and leave, right? Like you don't have to, you just lock the door and leave. You don't have to worry about anything. And there's an association that takes care of all the maintenance and, all the other stuff. And
those are great.
Definitely a lifestyle play where, you don't want to be there mowing the lawn, which is fine. Right?
Yeah.
I don't want to mow my lawn either.
Exactly.
So it's really interesting. So we talk a lot about, like, are we building the right type of housing? How do we address the housing situation for like the working class and all up and down the spectrum of different types of property that we need?
Right.
I'm really curious to see how the housing policy, building policy within our cities and county evolve over time, and what they're able to do to help, overall affordability, so that people don't have to move out of county, right? They don't have to grow up in Sonoma County and move to Sacramento for housing affordability until they accumulate a certain amount of wealth and they can come back, right? I don't think that's a really positive trend. Like I'd like to be able to see people, grow up here, go away to college, get a little experience, and then come home to start their families and do that. Like that's the trend that we like to see, because they bring those outside perspectives and education back to the area. Exactly. And it creates for a more diverse, educated population, which is good. Right. So like kind of as we're wrapping up, so just like wanted to get your kind of final thoughts on, what do you think 2023 brings real estate, and if there's any other thoughts or anything that you want to share with anyone who's looking to buy a house right now?
Definitely. Optimism. If it works in your current situation in life, it works. I don't think focusing so much on where rates are going to be, what the Fed's saying, and following the headlines. Really, it's if you can do it now, get in when you can, because the sooner you're in, building equity, you're not paying rent. On a 30-year loan, you're giving away about $1 million to a landlord, and so if you can get in, even if it's at an entry-level property, a condo, there's College Avenue in Rohnert Park. I believe that's Rohnert Park. Yeah, has some great condo developments over there with great HOA programs that do the lock and leave, like you say, where literally the HOA covers everything. It even includes water and utilities, and so it's great for a family that's trying to get their foot in the door, get started, and get going. And yeah, I mean, I'm glad to help. I do this full time.
Yeah.
I'm passionate, and I'd say slightly obsessed about this industry, and so
That's good.
yeah.
I've never heard anyone say, "I'm bummed that we bought the house that we did."
Yeah.
I always hear them say, "I wish we would have bought earlier."
Mm-hmm.
Right? I wish I would have started that process earlier.
Yes.
I wish I would have, bought in 2012, 2013, 2015, whatever that is. So if it's in your plan to buy a home, or you're looking at trading out and you need someone's opinion, obviously call Tommy. We'll put your information in the show notes. And you cover a pretty wide range of geography, so they can reach out at anyone kind of in those four or five counties.
Yeah, 100%. And even there's always room for if it's a little bit farther, or if it's added, like if it's San Francisco seems to be an area that I stay away from. It's just not.
It's a specialized market.
It's a specialized market, and it's a different animal out there. And so yeah, just call me, just chat. I'm always available 24/7. I know my Google business says I close at 6 or 7 p.m., but
we never close.
We never close.
We're always open.
Yeah.
I was on the phone last night with a client, FaceTiming with the client last night. I got the kids to bed, and we hopped on the call at like 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
We talked for like 45 minutes. And it's just when people are available. They all have full-time jobs, and
Exactly.
they fed their families and got their kids to bed, and then we had to chat through what their plan was to buy their next piece of real estate. So
yeah. And it's our job to keep them calm and cool and collected throughout the transaction. And so if it means that we have to have a conversation at 2 o'clock in the morning to help with that, I'm game for it.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I really appreciate you coming on the show, and thanks for your perspective on everything. And we'll have you on sometime soon.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Tommy. See you soon.
Appreciate it.
Stay up to date with Bay Area real estate. Hit subscribe now if you haven't already. Did you enjoy this episode? We love reviews in the Apple Podcasts app. We'll read yours on the show. This is By the Bay.